At its peak, FTX was worth over $30 billion. Days later, it was worth nothing. This was the symbol of safety in a chaotic industry, the name of a crypto empire etched into an American skyline. He sold humility and trust.
It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.
A Corolla, a beanbag bed, and the promise that your funds were safe. But beneath the screens and slogans, something monstrous was growing. In a matter of 72 hours, trust disintegrated. Withdrawals froze, billions evaporated, and millions were locked
Scandal
out.
that engulfed him shocked the world.
News overnight, Sam Bankman-Fried is now in custody in the Bahamas.
Prosecutors would later call it one of the biggest financial frauds in U.S. history. A single leak, a single tweet, 3 days. That's all it took to kill an empire. And when FTX fell, it dragged trust in an entire industry with it. Behind closed doors, a secret backdoor in the code allowed billions to vanish, straight from customer accounts to fund wild bets, luxury estates, and political donations. Tonight, we uncover the hidden code, the inner circle, and the 3 days that destroyed a $30 billion empire. He was the White Knight of crypto. But what if the savior was the thief all along? Before the headlines, before the billions, there was Samuel Bankman-Fried, a physics student at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, class of 2014. The son of 2 Stanford law professors, raised in privilege, but already restless for something bigger. After graduation, he joined Jane Street Capital, a Wall Street firm where brilliance was currency. Here, he learned to master arbitrage, finding tiny price differences across markets and turning them into millions. But Sam wanted more than Wall Street. In 2017, he quit and founded Alameda Research, a hedge fund designed to exploit the Wild West of crypto trading. Alameda made a name by moving millions in Bitcoin between continents, buying cheap in the US, selling high in Japan. For a while, the system worked. Money poured in. But Sam's ambitions didn't stop at trading. In 2019, with former Google engineer Gary Wang, he launched FTX, a crypto exchange designed to beat the competition with slick products and high-risk derivatives. It was fast, it was aggressive, and it grew at breakneck speed. By 2021, investors poured in $420 million. The company's valuation soared to $25 billion. Sam, barely 29 years old, was suddenly one of the richest men alive. But Sam sold something more than an exchange. He sold an image, the frizzy hair, the cargo shorts, the Corolla instead of the Lamborghini. The story of a humble genius sleeping on beanbags to save the world. He preached effective altruism, a philosophy of earning to give.
The industry has the potential to improve a lot of people's lives.
The more billions he made, the more good he claimed he would do. FTX was everywhere, from magazine covers to the Super Bowl, where Larry David warned viewers not to miss out.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.
Irony history would not forget. As crypto markets wobbled in the summer of 2022, Sam cast himself as the rescuer. FTX and Alameda bailed out failing firms. He was called crypto's White Knight, the one man who could save a crumbling industry. But behind that halo, shadows were already growing. Alameda and FTX weren't separate. They were two sides of the same coin, and the cracks would soon spread. What no one knew, not investors, not regulators, not even most employees, was that buried deep in the code, a secret door had already been built, and it would become the fuse to one of the greatest financial disasters of our time. This single line of code would protect one company from ever facing consequences. That company was Alameda Research, Sam's private hedge fund. And the money that kept it alive, it belonged to FTX customers. FTX and Alameda were supposed to be separate. In reality, they were run out of the same penthouse, the same people, the same money, and the same secrets. Alameda's CEO, Caroline Ellison, was more than an employee. She was part of Sam's inner circle, his partner in life and in business. Together with Gary Wang, the quiet coder, and Nishad Singh, director of engineering, they formed a secretive club that answered only to Sam. When customers wired money to FTX, many believed it went to the exchange. In truth, billions were quietly redirected into Alameda's accounts, commingled and spent. On paper, Alameda looked strong. In reality, it had a secret unlimited credit line, up to $65 billion, borrowed directly from customer funds. Every other trader was bound by risk engines. If losses mounted, their positions were closed, but Alameda was immortal. It could lose billions and the system would pretend nothing happened. The siphoned funds didn't just cover debts. They financed a spending spree, luxury real estate, multi-million-dollar penthouses for friends and family, even beachfront homes placed in employees' names. Billions went to venture bets, political influence, and personal loans. $2.3 billion to related companies, $1.6 billion loaned to executives themselves, expenses approved with emojis. A global empire run like a college dorm room. The uncomfortable truth, FTX wasn't an exchange. It was a casino, and Sam was betting with chips that didn't belong to him. And this was the man who cleaned up Enron. Inside the circle, they rationalized it all. They spoke of utilitarianism, the idea that rules like don't lie or don't steal were trivial compared to serving the greater good. But the greater good was a mask. The truth was simple. They were stealing billions. By the summer of 2022, Alameda's losses had become a black hole, and the only way to cover it was with more and more customer money. The fuse was burning. All it needed was a spark. It began with a leak. A single balance sheet from Alameda Research, published by CoinDesk. At first glance, it showed $14 billion in assets. But look closer, and almost all of it was smoke. Over half of Alameda's assets were not cash, not Bitcoin, not anything liquid. They were FTT tokens, created and controlled by FTX itself. It was wealth built on quicksand. The crypto world saw the problem instantly.
Rough week for crypto investors.
As Terra Luna just crashed in 5 days from $90, 99% down to 72 cents.
If Alameda's fortune was built on FTT and FTT lost value, then both Alameda and FTX were standing on nothing. One man decided to act. Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, the billionaire founder of Binance, FTX's biggest rival, $580 million worth of FTT, dumped into the market. And with one tweet, the panic began. The message was clear. If Binance didn't trust FTX, no one should. Within hours, withdrawals surged, the digital equivalent of a bank run. In just 72 hours, customers demanded $6 billion back. But there was no money to give. Sam insisted everything was safe. But his words only deepened suspicion. Traders pulled harder, faster, desperate to escape. By Tuesday, the empire was collapsing. Withdrawals froze. The whole, nearly $8 billion, was impossible to hide. In desperation, Sam turned to the very rival who had triggered the collapse. Binance signed a letter of intent to buy FTX, pending due diligence. For a moment, hope flickered, but when Binance saw the books, it walked away. The rescue evaporated. Sam was alone. On November 11th, 2022, the dream was
From
over.
a $32 billion company to bankruptcy in the matter of just 4 days or so.
There's so much we don't know. There's so much we don't know.
Well, here's what we know. He's broke.
And he's in big trouble. He's in big trouble.
In less than 2 weeks, FTX had gone from 32 billion to zero. But this was only the beginning. The world had yet to see just how deep the hole went, and who had been holding the keys. A veteran of corporate disasters took his place. John Ray had once dismantled Enron. He thought he had seen everything, until FTX, coming from the man who cleaned up Enron. The statement was chilling.
Times as saying you have never seen such a complete failure of corporate control, and the level of dysfunction was the worst you have ever seen. Can you expand on these statements?
What Ray found was worse than chaos. It was deliberate recklessness. There were no reliable records, no accounting systems, no lists of bank accounts. Some audits were done by a 2-person firm in the metaverse. The whole was staggering. $8 billion missing from customer accounts. $1.7 billion gone from equity investors. Another $1.3 billion owed to lenders. Sequoia Capital wrote down $210 million to zero. The Miami Heat tore down their arena name. Even pensions and retirement funds evaporated overnight. Then came another shock. Just hours after bankruptcy, over $600 million vanished from FTX's wallets in what officials called unauthorized transactions. Many suspected an insider siphoning one last time. For users, it was too late. Their savings frozen, their trust destroyed. Some lost life savings, others lost college funds. 1 million creditors would be left waiting in line. The shockwaves spread. Prices tumbled. Exchanges scrambled to prove they were solvent. A new mantra echoed through the industry. Not your keys, not your coins. The collapse wasn't isolated. BlockFi, once rescued by FTX, toppled next. Regulators circled, and the industry braced for an avalanche of scrutiny. For Sam, the empire was gone, but the investigation was just beginning, and soon the spotlight would turn not just on him, but on the inner circle who helped build the lie. Who were the ones who kept the machine running? And how much did they know? The answers would tear open the myth of the boy genius and reveal the human cost of blind loyalty.
The world better, or if someone else does it, better is better. And if I can do anything to help other people help the world, that's just as good.
At the heart of FTX was not a boardroom of seasoned financiers, but a group of 20-somethings living together in a luxury penthouse. They were coders, traders, and dreamers. They were also the gatekeepers of billions. Carolyn Ellison, a math prodigy, a Jane Street alum, and at times Sam's girlfriend. She became CEO of Alameda Research. To the world, she looked shy and bookish, but in court, she would admit the truth. Sam told her to lie, to falsify documents, to steal customer money. She lived in dread, and when it all collapsed, she felt only relief that she no longer had to hide. Gary Wang, the quiet co-founder of FTX, a former Google engineer. While Sam sold the dream, Gary built the machine. He admitted under oath that he wrote the code giving Alameda unlimited credit. He knew it was fraud. He did it anyway. In a few lines of code, billions of dollars in customer protections were erased. Nishad Singh, director of engineering, a childhood friend of Sam's younger brother. In 2020, he inserted a single instruction into FTX's risk engine: be extra careful not to liquidate Alameda. It was the backdoor that allowed the scheme to run unchecked. Together, this trio formed the secret circle. They obeyed Sam's orders, rationalizing their crimes with the language of philosophy, utilitarianism, the greater good. Rules didn't matter, they believed, if the ends were noble enough. But when the empire fell, the philosophy crumbled. Caroline told the jury she felt overwhelming relief when the collapse came. Gary confessed flatly that they had lied to the public. Nishad admitted that hiding Alameda's debt was part of his code. Each of them pled guilty. Each of them pointed the finger at Sam. And each became a key witness against the man they once called leader, friend, even partner. For years they had lived together, sharing meals, secrets, and beds. But when the truth came out, they saved themselves by betraying him. With the inner circle broken, prosecutors prepared their case. And soon the boy who once testified before Congress would be led away in handcuffs. December 12th, 2022. Just 1 month after FTX's collapse, Sam Bankman-Fried is arrested in his Bahamas penthouse. The boy genius of crypto, now in handcuffs. He had been called the next Warren Buffett. Now he was facing extradition to the United States on charges of fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Days later, he was flown to New York. As he crossed the tarmac, news broke that his closest allies, Caroline Ellison and Gary Wang, had already flipped. They had pled guilty and were working with prosecutors. 8 counts: wire fraud, securities fraud, commodities fraud, conspiracy. A mountain of evidence and a maximum sentence of more than a century. At first, he returned home to his parents' house in Palo Alto under the strictest bail ever set. But even freedom couldn't save him. Sam couldn't stay silent. He leaked Caroline Ellison's private writings to a journalist, a move prosecutors called witness tampering. His bail was revoked. The crypto king was sent to jail before trial. The trial of Sam Bankman-Fried began in October 2023. It would be the most watched crypto case in history. The fall of a billionaire laid bare. Gary Wang testified first. He admitted he had built code that allowed Alameda to withdraw unlimited funds. He said simply, Sam directed it. Then came Caroline. She testified that Sam ordered her to falsify balance sheets, to borrow billions in customer deposits, to keep the house of cards standing. She spoke of utilitarianism, of Sam's belief that rules like don't lie or don't steal didn't apply. She admitted she lived in constant dread and felt relief when the lie finally ended. The evidence was overwhelming. Billions gone, customers betrayed, a secret backdoor in the code, a life built on deception. Sam made a desperate gamble. He testified in his own defense, insisting he hadn't stolen funds. He blamed mismanagement, bad luck, and market crashes. But the jury didn't buy it. On November 2nd, 2023, 1 year to the day after the first leak, Sam Bankman-Fried was found guilty on all 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy. At sentencing, Judge Kaplan delivered the final blow: 25 years in federal prison and $11 billion forfeited. He told the court he knew it was wrong. He regrets betting on not getting caught. The beanbag was gone. The empire erased. The boy who promised safety had stolen it all. And yet, one question lingered. How did so many powerful people fall under his spell? To the world, FTX wasn't just another crypto exchange. It was culture. It was sport. It was Hollywood. Sam bought credibility the same way he bought real estate, with customer money. He signed Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen, Steph Curry, Naomi Osaka, Shohei Ohtani, even Larry David. If these icons trusted FTX, why wouldn't you? $135 million secured naming rights for the Miami Heat's arena. The logo was plastered across jerseys, broadcasts, skylines. But when FTX fell, those same faces were dragged into lawsuits. Plaintiffs claimed they helped lure retail investors into a fraud. Even the world's smartest investors were hypnotized. Sequoia Capital put in $200 million. Temasek, SoftBank, Tiger Global followed. When the dust settled, every cent was gone. But Sam's most powerful investments weren't in sports or startups. They were in politics. In the 2022 election cycle, Sam was the second largest donor to Democrats, just behind George Soros. $40 million spent shaping the laws that might govern crypto. Later, Sam admitted he gave just as much to Republicans, only in secret. He feared the press backlash, so he funneled dark money to the other side. In truth, he was buying influence everywhere, and it worked. Regulators welcomed him. Politicians posed with him. In Washington, he wasn't seen as a threat. He was seen as the model citizen of crypto. After the fall, those same politicians scrambled to explain the millions they'd taken. Some returned the money. Others stayed silent. All of them faced one question: had they been bought? Sam didn't just buy ads. He bought access. He bought credibility. And for a time, it worked until the receipts came due. The empire was gone, the trial finished, the endorsements disowned. But what about the industry itself? Could crypto survive its darkest hour? When the lights of FTX went dark, the shock spread far beyond Miami, far beyond the Bahamas. It rippled across an entire industry. Crypto investors everywhere asked the same question: if the safest exchange was a fraud, who could be trusted? In the United States, regulators seized the moment. The SEC and CFTC pointed to FTX as proof that the Wild West of crypto needed a sheriff. Congressional hearings became public trials for the entire industry. Gary Gensler warned that nearly every exchange was breaking the law, and for the first time, Washington listened. Across the Atlantic, Europe moved fast. The Markets in Crypto Assets Framework, MICA, became law. Its goal: never again allow another FTX. The industry fractured. Some said FTX was proof all centralized platforms were rotten. Others claimed it was just one bad actor. The community split between cynics and optimists. Exchanges scrambled to prove solvency. Proof of reserves became the buzzword. But critics argued it was still voluntary, still unverified. Culturally, FTX became myth. Books, documentaries, late-night comedy. The curly-haired billionaire in shorts became a punchline. Crypto's Bernie Madoff. Even the philanthropic movement Sam once championed was scarred. Effective altruism, the creed of earn to give, faced a reckoning. Sam had confessed in private messages that it was all a front, that he said what people wanted to hear. Behind the headlines were real people, 1 million creditors left waiting, lives shattered, dreams erased. It was perhaps the only honest sentence he ever wrote. Crypto didn't die, but something sacred did. Trust. And if trust is gone, what's left to build on? The Greeks told of Icarus, a boy who flew too close to the sun. His wings, bound with wax, melted, and he fell into the sea. Sam Bankman-Fried sold himself as Crypto's Icarus, with wings of humility, a corolla, a frizzy mop of hair, a promise that your money was safe. But behind the curtain, the wax was already melting. In the end, the empire was not a fortress, but a house of cards, and the cards were your deposits, worse than Enron, worse than the crashes before. It was fraud in its purest form, hiding in plain sight. Hubris had finally met consequence. The cost wasn't measured in billions alone. It was trust, and once trust is gone, nothing is safe. The industry survived, but scarred. Regulators now write the sequel. Exchanges scramble to prove transparency, and investors tread with heavier hearts. Perhaps the only honest words he ever wrote. If the safest exchange was a mirage, who do you trust now?